Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Mariner of Spirit. My name is Greg. I'm your host, and tonight we have another extra special show. But before I bring my guest out, I'd like to go ahead and mention a few things that I normally do every Friday night. And the first one is the people that I support. The first one is Potographs, which is a nonprofit. These are all nonprofit groups, by the way. Potographs is a nonprofit organization that was put together by a friend of ours in the paranormal community by the name of Tim Miley. And him and his wife, Lauren, have gone ahead and continued on the legacy of their pooch, of actually Tim's pooch, who died quite a few years ago, and he didn't know how he was going to make it or how he was going to continue to go on and carrying on without having his pooch around. And he came up with an idea, and they had a picture of him and his pup, and he took him and signed him, and he went to one of the Paracons, and he just started taking donations for animal shelters and things of that nature. So as it turned out, he got bigger and bigger, and now Mr. Miley has his own events that he does for Potographs, which is the name of his group. And he does a great job every year. He has a lot of the people that are in the paranormal community speak at his events, and they're really something. He's going to have another one, I believe, that's going to be coming up at Ashmore again. And it's something that if you've never gone to one of his events, do it. It's well worth it. It's a great day. It's got some great people that go ahead and share a lot of great information, and you'll have a fun time. So that's Tim Miley. Secondly, it's PKC, Paranormal Kicks Cancer, with Chris Gaskowski and Alex Wilkinson. They're from Florida. They're a couple that I ran into, I don't know how many years ago. They were down at Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, and I was interviewing a friend of mine who happens to own it, and Ronnie D, and he brought these people in, and I got them to meet them and talk to them, and I had them on the show. And it was like one of those times that, you meet people, and then you find out that they're there for a purpose, and that's to go ahead and raise money for a charity. And it's like, okay, whatever I could do to help you guys out, I will. And they were very gracious in accepting that. And so I mention them all the time on the show every week, just like Potographs. And they're great people. They're from Florida, and they do events in Florida, and then all the way up into Tennessee, and that where they'll do haunted houses, or they'll do haunted locations, and they'll actually do the same thing where they raise money, and it's all for cancer research. Thirdly is the Jessica Petrie Foundation. She is the daughter of Howard Petrie, who was the founder of uh, um, PUN, Paranormal United Network. And what's interesting about that is PUN turned into Paralanx, and Howard is still around there with it. The people that run it are a little different now, but Howard's still around, and his foundation for his daughter is still there, and that is a resource for expecting mothers, families of pregnant women with mental illness. So if you get the opportunity, look them up. If you need to go ahead and ask again what it is, message me. I'm more than willing to give any information I can on all three of these people, these organizations, because they've been very helpful to the communities. So, and then secondly, before I bring my guest on, is I mentioned some of the authors I support and the authors of people that have been on the show. And we start out with Bruce Holliday, Tobias Wayland, Adam Benedict, Kathy Kressel, Barnaby Jones, Sherilyn Cotter, Dr. Heatherly Langdon, Lynn Monet, Ron Iacovetti. We have Victoria Munday, Tony Rathman, Natalie Jones, Patty Negri, Sylvia Schultz, Amelia Cotter, Rex Nielsen, David Sloan, and Christina Bloom. And if I forgot anybody besides I probably even forgot my guest tonight, if he happens to have a book out there. So we'd have to add him too. But without further ado, I want to bring on Mr. Todd Bates.
Hey, Greg.
Thank you very much for being here. It's a pleasure having you, and it's an honor.
Oh, thank you.
Thank
you for having me.
You've been in the community for quite some time, going ahead and sharing and teaching people and it's great to have you on finally.
Yes.
After we've been over the year and a half or whatever it's been that when we first tried to get together. And I know I had the pleasure of meeting you on one of your shows that you were holding, and I was on there, and you had a lady that I happen to know from Ghost Research Society by the name of Nicole Strickland, and she's if anybody needs to know anything about, it's the Queen Mary, correct?
Oh, absolutely. She is the queen of the Queen Mary. Yeah.
Okay, so she is the one. So if you go out to California and you got anything to do with the Queen Mary, probably about 4 months before you head out there, be sure you go ahead and contact Nicole.
Absolutely.
Care of the Queen Mary, and then she'll be able to help you out any way she possibly can. But let's get back to you, because you're here, and you're here for a lot of important reasons. And I know that ITC Explorations,
EVP Explorations.
Excuse me. Well,
you're fine.
I think they're both interconnected somewhere.
Yes,
or the other.
They're both absolutely twins, if you will.
So why don't you let everybody know a little bit about that part?
Oh, sure. EVP Explorations is the new venture. Those that have I've been doing this for a few decades, Greg, and podcasting back in the day. That's how all of this started. Back in the day, it was 2002 is when everything started, and then there was a chance for me to have my own show, and the reason why was because I started Haunted Voices back in 2002, 2003, and Haunted Voices was a mecca for electronic voice phenomenon. And the reason why I built it was because I couldn't find hardly any information when I first started and got into this field. I hardly found any information out there on the web. And I had to search far and near. And finally, I got enough information, screwed up enough and made enough mistakes in this field to help others, to help others decipher their EVP captures that they got. I enjoyed that. I loved. I threw myself. I still do it to this day. They send them to me all the time. I love it, and I go through them when I can. And back then, it was about community. It was really about community back then, and everybody came to Haunted Voices to learn. I taught lessons there. It was they were in a chat room at first because that's all we had, and we had a forum, a members forum, the old forums, and but we all got together on that site and talked about EVP and just death in itself and what we can do to combat this motivation that we have to find the final answer if we ever find it. But Haunted Voices, that's what it was about. And it evolved over the years into a program. And the reason why it evolved into an audio podcast was to reach more people to teach these lessons. So I had to get a server. You had to get a server back then. Different. It's different than what it is today. Oh my goodness, it was rough. But it was a great start to a journey that led me down an unbelievable path of discovery when it comes to the paranormal. I was 100% skeptic, Greg, before I got into this completely. I mean, it was UFOs maybe back then. And then, when you have your own experience, when you have something that clicks finally with you, it wakes you up, and that's what keeps motivating me to go forward are these different experiences, these personal experiences, whether it be an EVP capture, an apparition sighting, whether it be a thump on the wall. Those are all experiences that keep compelling me forward. They just propel me forward to discover, hopefully, that there is some kind of life after death. There's something after we pass. Now, coming into this field, you would have to prove that to me all day long. Now, I've proven it to myself. And that's the only person I have to prove it to, I feel, is myself, that there is something after. And that's what EVP Explorations, it's a reboot. It's a Haunted Voices reboot. Haunted Voices strayed away from electronic voice phenomenon. It went into cryptozoology. It went into ufology. It grew. It expanded. And I lost I lost touch. So I had to disconnect that program, that name, from the community. It's no longer, and it's been reborn into what's called EVP Explorations that concentrates on communication, EVP, ITC, and I wanted to have the same, but with modern technology, Haunted Voices similar to, but with today's new technology. Back then, we didn't have these website plugins and so forth that, sure, they're hard to set up. Yeah, they're a pain in the butt. But to create a lesson for someone to go in there and learn, I welcome that kind of technology because it's free. And that's another thing, is it's not that everything in the paranormal community should be free, or I'm not preaching about free this, free that. Reason why I don't charge for those courses is because I feel that information is vital enough that someone can use that as a foundation and capture some of these voices themselves, or learn how to use different pieces of equipment. Go take these free courses at evpexplorations.com. And it has its own website. They're right there for you. It's all free of charge. The courses are designed to help you move forward in this field, to motivate you to continue to grow, to take this information that's in there, in these lessons, build your foundation, go out there, record, or grab a spirit box. Whatever you need to do to communicate, let's do it. Let's get out there and communicate. Let's get out there and find some answers. I wanted to help, and several of us are trying to help pull people away. And these are fantastic things. The film crews, the the conferences. I mean, don't get me wrong, they have their place. But I feel it's all that this community is becoming. We're not, aside from people like Tony and Cherie, Ron and Lourdes, breakthroughs, Alyssa last night, breakthroughs. These are few and far between. We should have more. With the technology that we have at this point, we should have more, I feel. And I don't think we're working hard enough, Greg, as a community. And people are coming into this for the wrong reasons, perhaps, or maybe not understanding the reasons to come into this kind of field. But if you do come into it, definitely educate yourself. It's a wicked place out there. It's scary as hell. It really is. It has its moments. Don't underestimate it. And those courses, the articles, everything there helps prepare you for these things that are out there, all the way down to dowsing rods. It even teaches you how to use the Ouija. I wrote a course for that, to how to use it properly. Not the stereotypical way of conjuring demons, but how to use that properly as a communication tool with spirit. I feel, Greg, and I'm sure your audience does as well, they're all intertwined. An EVP and a Ouija, an EVP session and a Ouija session, same difference in my opinion. Same difference in my opinion. We are inviting others to come into this realm to communicate with us. Any way you slice it. Any way you slice it. All stereotypes aside, any way you slice it, communication with the dead is communication with the dead. And to get out there and communicate and learn how to communicate properly, learn what questions to ask, when to ask them, learn what to research and when to research it. Do you take mediums with you on investigations? Do you use mediums? Is that scientific? Does it matter? These are all the questions that get thrown out there and that we're sitting here bickering about when we don't need to bicker. We need to come together and say, hey, look, this is how it should be. Our main focus, our main goal is life after death, no matter how you slice it. Any way you slice it, life after death. That's what we're seeking. That's why we do what we do, I believe, is just to have that little moment where, that moment of clarity where we're not crazy. We're not hearing things. You know what I mean, Greg?
Well, there has to be some sort of structure that's created, like what you've done, where there's a way for people to look at it. There's an approach where if I go back to where I was, and I had an instance where I was just doing basically the same thing. I had a spirit box and a recorder, and I was filming, and it's in my hand, and I was halfway down the hill, and I was at Gettysburg, and I was on the triangular field, and way up the top of the hill was the rest of my group at the time, and they were doing an EVP session. And there were like 7 or 8 people standing there, and I am down there, and I'll ask one question, and then I'll wait, like you normally do, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, waiting for a reply, and I could hear a voice come through,
Mm-hmm.
and the voice came through, and someone said, it said head, And then somebody else goes, oh, no, it didn't say head, it said dead. And then they start going back and forth at each other, like what you brought up before. And
Yeah.
it got to the point that in an hour of being down there and doing that, it was taking me totally out of what I was trying to do or accomplish just to communicate
Yes.
because of what was going on up there. So that's how I turned into later on after that situation. I happened to get a little involved with what was going on at the Estes, out at the Stanley in Estes Park.
Mm-hmm.
And I started listening to what they were doing. And I says, wow, now I can get into this because it's not, you don't have 50 people in the background
Right.
saying different things. You can concentrate on what you hear.
Focus.
If it's a valid response, if you got it recorded, fine. If not, you have something to go by and you can continue on
Bingo.
because it's one on one. And I started because of that. That was my introduction, where I said, this is it. This is my course. And now down the road, I would branch off again and again,
Mm-hmm.
going in the direction that I still continue to go today. But it was because of that. And it's the same thing that you're talking about. And I think that when we talk about your courses and everything, it's it's a fundamentally it's very sound in the
Thank you.
respect that you're dealing with one or two people at the most every time you do one of your shows or you do a course and you're teaching somebody something. And you're one of those people in the community that is very valid in their approach. You know what you're talking about, and that's why I was excited to have you on, is because this is the kind of thing that takes people that were questionable or skeptics, as we call them, and turn them into somewhat of a believer, or they
Yes.
have an approach to follow. They have a
Mm-hmm.
path, and that's where that is for me. And I got really excited, especially after that last show. And if you
Yeah.
if if you want if you want to mention that right now, and I don't think we're skipping too much because we're still on the same. But
Oh
as
yeah.
far as your guest last week,
I tell you what. Last night's guest, Alyssa Beaver. Um, that show, if you guys haven't seen it, EVP Explorations, Alyssa Beaver, search it. It's on YouTube, Facebook. It's all over the place. It was a fantastic show. It was an eye opener for me. Now, I'm an old school EVP buff. I am stubborn. I am bullheaded. I haven't yet. I'm slowly transitioning into more ITC practices, Greg, as you know, and it's hard for me. It's hard for me because I have yet to figure out EVP, how it got on magnetic tape. So I'm still weighing. I'm still on the fence. Both of them have their pros and cons. They're unique. They are one. It is the most joyous marriage I've ever encountered. And last night's show completely opened my eyes to not only communicating with the dead, but communicating with the living and animals using something as simple as a computer and a program called WavePad. And some gibberish that she gets, she said, that she mixes in sometimes. But it doesn't come out as gibberish. These files that we played last night are absolutely incredible. They are mind-blowing, and we just barely scratched the surface, and there'll be a part two. But it's things like that, Greg, that wake you up in this field. And I was so focused on EVP that I had lost focus of the wider communication in general and how it's evolved with Staticom and things of that nature, how it's evolving. We are close. We are almost there to a breakthrough. It is right around the corner. It really is. And it's going to be something big. And it's going to be something that is going to help so many people, especially with the work like what Alyssa does with helping those that have crossed over. You'll see some of those clips in there. I had to hold back tears during two of those. I almost lost it. But it was incredible, folks. If you have some time, it was a 2 hour show special. It's just got some great information, and it's going to open your eyes to communication not only with the dead but also with the living, and how the human mind works. You know, telepathy, however, whatever you want to call it. Somehow, some way, those things are getting onto that device and into the ears that need to hear them, hear those words. Closure. I can't imagine.
So do you consider yourself to be on your own journey as far as this is concerned?
You know, that's a great question. And I would have to say yes. I there's so many encounters a person has over decades of going out there. And I've retired from the field and I'm getting back out there again. But this journey, this is a journey for me, was at first to discover some kind of life after death, to discover it for myself, because I was in such doubt. I was raised Catholic. And this, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Oh no, you wouldn't do this kind of stuff. No. Well, it took this journey led me. I've talked to two priests to try to convince me that what I'm doing is crazy. And they simply said, no, my son, it's curiosity. It's what it is. Try and fight the temptation. Oh, come on. I'm out. I am going to figure this out somehow, some way. And I know, Greg, that everybody's going to figure out eventually. It's just no one's in any hurry to get there. Okay. But it's that right there. What keeps me on this journey and what keeps me going is helping other people along the way. That is what's most important to me, is helping other people along the way. I mean, if you need help, you need a hand, I am right there. I will lift you up. I will help you the best I can, because I've screwed up in the past. So you don't have to. You know, you don't screw up as bad. I've made the mistakes. I've tried the experiments. They failed. I have failed several times over. And I think you have to fail in this field to learn how to succeed with it, to learn what to appreciate when you capture it. And every bit collects. And it makes sense over time, but yet it causes more questions than answers. Every time you're going to get more questions. But slowly, these questions are being answered with these new developments and things coming into the field. So the more people we have in this field that have a proper foundation, that maybe have some proper training, they too can help assist with these breakthroughs and discover things on their own. You know, you may have somebody fresh off the street, Greg, that comes in. They don't know the difference between perhaps a ghost and a spirit. Is there a difference? We don't know. But they perhaps don't know that. They take a course, a 101 course that I have or somebody has. They get a foundation. Okay. They get ideas going. Well, their fresh ideas are exactly what we need in this field. We need these fresh ideas. We need the next generation to step it up and to train themselves and come in and fight with us in this field. because we're all here for the same reason. I feel we're not here just to hang out. It's a community, sure. It like-minded people. This community welcomed me when no one else would, and I'll never forget them for that. I've never left them because of that. They didn't leave me. I'm not going to leave them. No matter how much this community seems to fail, it's thriving at the same time. And this too shall pass with the field. I'm sure you've seen it several times, Greg, the transitions, the fads, the trends, you just have to put on the blinders, folks, and focus on why we're here. We're here to research death. Plain and simple, to research death and communicate with those that have crossed, or now those that are living. I mean, it's just amazing how this community spins, and it's what keeps me going, and helping other people along the way. That's my most enjoyable thing, is helping other people, because people helped me when I first came, and I didn't know anything. I didn't know a thing, and they helped me. They took that chance. They didn't waste their time on me. They told me good information, both of them. One of them was Jason Snyder. The other was Sarah Wilson Estep. Both of them took me under their wing and taught me the fundamentals that I needed to learn to do this. And I'll be forever grateful to both of them for pushing me in the right direction where I needed to go, because I'm content. I'm happy. I am at peace of mind. I have peace of mind knowing that when I do cross, when my time does come, I know it's not over. I know it's just beginning. And I may be one of those stuck cranky spirits here for a little while, Greg, kicking sand. I don't know. But I'm going to try to fly up. I'm going to try to get out. But know this, if that time comes, I'm going to be over there. And if there are any rules to break, I will be the one to break them to come through, to finally come through. And if there's a way, I'm going to try my best to find it. Try my best. Because I think
we all go ahead.
I think it's just as hard for them to communicate with us as it is for us to communicate with them. There needs to be something that bridges that gap.
That's why I thought there had to be a common denominator.
Yeah.
And when I started or continued to do the work that I was doing, my work was being done in pursuit of my questions on my spirituality, because I was already involved on that end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, how do I come up to be able to communicate with my guides? Besides, what can I hear it? Is there some way that I could possibly hear that? Because if I could hear that, that would cut out all the probabilities and turn them into valid arguments. And that's where I have been. And I'm glad I'm very blessed to have been able to go in that direction and continue to carry it on, even though now we're not liquidated to such as far as all the Estes methods that are going on, because I'm one of those people that, on my show on Wednesday night, we do doubles. We do 3 sessions of doubles, 25 minutes apiece.
Yeah.
And there is actual chatter that goes back and forth, just like the first time I did it at Old South Pittsburgh, where I had no idea. And now some people say it's gone into channeling, that we are carrying it through us. That's part of the deal. And
I think each one of us is a catalyst or a host in our own way, a medium, if you will.
And we carry the intent.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why in the beginning of the show on Wednesday night is we ask for everybody that comes into the chat to ask for that intention for us to be able to communicate with spirit. And
Intention is everything.
and it to me it magnifies it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If you got 20 people that come into the room and you've got two people that are going under, that your chances are increased. And I don't know if that's being a numbnut or not by saying that, but you
Not
know,
at all.
it put it in a different perspective for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's why I get excited, like when I have a person like you on, because we're doing the same thing.
Yes. The
You know,
exact same thing
and everything
almost.
that you have said in the last so many minutes is validation to everything that I've said, and vice versa. So I mean, I'm blessed in that respect to know people like you and know people that have been involved with me on what I do on my end of it,
Mm-hmm.
and then what you guys do, and try to carry it on to other people. And you know, there's some people, how could I say this, that aren't willing. They think they're going to get handed something. You know where
Yeah,
I'm going.
I do.
And you know, and they do want, they want the results, but they're not willing to go through the efforts of obtaining them.
The beauty of it, of those efforts, are the results you get because of those efforts. The intention you set sets the pace for the entire investigation. You want to keep your mind as open as possible. A little caution back there. Don't get me wrong. Don't be gullible now. But keep it open when you go to these investigations, because you don't know what you're going to see, hear, smell, sense. You have no clue. And your intention going in there, manifest hearing, manifest seeing, manifest smelling something, manifest it. And the human mind, you know, plays tricks on you. Okay. So learn the differences between what you manifest. Is this place haunted because it's dark and old? Or is it haunted because there's actually a spirit in there? Manifest your situations, folks. Go do your homework, do your research. It's important. And I'm talking about even going to the clerk's office, paying $10 for something called an abstract for a house. And you can pull it, and it has a list of names and dates and all kinds of information for you. Little things like that. Do your homework, you get results. You put that intention of getting results, odds are you're going to get them. You kind of, with this field, and I know for a fact you know this, Greg. You get out what you put in every time. Usually, every time you get out what you put in. If you had an argument with your wife or girlfriend that day, the team needs you. Sit it out, because you're going to bring that to the rest of the crew, and it's going to taint everything. You know, it's going to lower your chances of getting results. So just be careful, be wise, be mindful with what you're doing with your equipment. And, you know, I've always followed, you know, less is more. It doesn't take much. You don't have to go out and raid a house with a bunch of zooms and whams, folks, to catch a spirit here. You don't need to do it. You know, number one, you're going to scare the hell out of the homeowner. Number two, you're going to scare the hell out of the spirit himself. Somebody throws a bunch of stuff in my face, I'm out of there. I know that. It's all in the approach. Again, with the intention, it's all with the approach as well. And as long as you maintain respect and responsibility, you're good to go. You're good to go. 9 times out of 10, you're good to go. That 10th one may flip you over, but you're still good to go after. It's not going to kill you. But you just need to be aware of your surroundings and do your homework and know that it's important to do your homework. It's part of this field. Yeah, and trust me, I get it. I did this full time for several years full time. It's all I did. Then when I retired, it turned back more into a hobby for me, like I wanted it to be.
Here's a question that was put
Hmm.
up here. I don't know if you know Mr. Bloomfield. In
Hmm.
2009, if you said you seen a shadow person, they wouldn't know what you were talking about. And if my said you seen a ghost, they would think you were nuts. It took me 4 years to tell my story. I was afraid of what people would think about me, but I have seen them and I have even heard them, and not on any kind of recorder, but with my own ears.
Absolutely, Michael. Well said. Electronic noise phenomenon. That's when you hear it with your naked ear. That is actually becoming all too common. Those are popping off left and right. And I don't know if perhaps the veil is thinning for some reason or something's happening, but there's been a lot of documented cases where people have heard it yet not recorded it on any device. It's strange. Maybe they're finding another way. Maybe they're taking some kind of natural element here from this planet, from our realm. Whether it be static energy, magnetism, who knows? But there's got to be some way we can figure this out and put two and two together. I think the spirits themselves maybe are becoming advanced like we are, and maybe they want to speak to us as much as we want to speak to them, but they can't for some reason, or we can't. There's I think I mean there's always going to be a barrier between the two of us, of course, but it doesn't have to be so limited. It just doesn't have to be so limited. I think it comes down to questions asked. It comes down to your approach, your intentions. All of these come together. You can't just show up and do one of these. Educate
I,
yourself.
I know, like what Carol says here, I like to see the history of a location after I've been through it. Now, that has its pluses and minuses too, but it depends on where the person happens to be at the time and the path that they are going down when they go into the location. So, in other
Hmm.
words, to me, if you're just a layperson and you don't really have any mediumship, or everybody has gifts.
Sure, sure.
Okay, so everybody has the same kind of ability to be able to go into a location and pick things up. Some people go ahead and put it on pause because they like to go ahead and be able to see what happens after they go through it, like what
Hmm.
Carol's saying. And I know that we have some real crazy things that have happened, and I just was at Trans Allegheny like 3 weeks ago, and I got in there, and it was the first time in quite some time I knew what I wanted to do, but then when I got in there, I was being led in a different direction.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And it's like, wait a minute here, because then you start doing the same thing you're talking about. And you start spinning around, and it's they are manipulating you, whether you want to admit it or not. And
And
I'm one of those guys that sits on the side and would definitely say, yeah, I've been manipulated. Okay. There's a lot of people that say, no, that's not the case. I'm above that. So be it.
Yeah,
To each his own. But
absolutely.
you just really start to wonder. Now, I know that you have gone ahead and done a lot of other things as far as being a digital creator and that. And now we cross over and we go from the actual spirit realm into the UFO community.
Hmm.
Now, are you bringing any of that into your courses too?
No, the courses are uh, EVP 101 through 103, Paranormal 101 to 103. There's equipment in there, equipment use, EMF meters, dowsing rods, cassette recorders, digital recorders, how to use them all. And there's nothing. I want to keep this geared more toward EVP and the paranormal, but not stretch as far in the paranormal as to the UFO realm or cryptozoology. I want to keep this one
Okay.
strictly communication based, the communication tools. Uh, that's why, I can't sit there and write a course on a ghost box. I haven't had enough experience with one to even put a course up for the ghost box. But if somebody would like to write a ghost box course, by all means, get in touch with me. You write it out, and I will put it into a lesson. But it definitely needs somebody with more experience than what I would have with a ghost box. Or I mean, I have one. I have one right here behind me, and I dabble with it. I've used it, and I'm working with it. I am. I'm taking a big step here, guys. I'm taking a big step going into the ITC part of this because I've for years all I know is electronic voice phenomenon. That's all I know, Greg. That is what I've
Okay.
practiced. That is it's what I do.
The question that I have pertains to a person by the name of Jeff Resman. Do you know of him?
I do not.
Mr. Resman happened to be involved with the Tim Woolworth, another man that happened to be by the name of Mr. Sumption.
Ah.
Okay, and they were all at Jeff's house, and they were using one of the first spirit boxes
Mm-hmm.
that, of course, Frank had gotten out of Mechanics Illustrated or Science Magazine or whichever one it was. I can
Mm-hmm.
remember seeing the page,
I remember Frank's box. Absolutely.
and and it was like, wow, be able to communicate with, and they said aliens, space people.
Yes.
And he was on my show, and I met him at one of the paracons in Chicago, and I was going to be doing a little presentation on the Estes method, and I was fairly new. Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
had studied it and watched those episodes of Connor Randall and Carl Pfeiffer and the group from the Stanley, and how they broke through on that, and they continued to do those sessions. And when that happened, I thought I could go ahead and at least help out somehow in what I had to say. And when I got ready to do it, this guy came coming out of nowhere, and I'm outside the arena or whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
and I had my case open, and I had spirit box out and headphones, and I was going to go ahead, and he comes up and he goes, "Wow," he says, "What are you doing?" He says, and I says, "Oh," I says, I'm gonna go in and do a thing on the Estes in here." He goes, "Who's your spirit guide?" And I sort of looked at him like, my
What?
spirit guide. Yeah. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
It's just like, wait a minute, where does this come from? So that in itself, not to drop him off the side of the cliff like this and go into another part of the conversation. He is an amazing person. He's a wealth of knowledge as far as everything you've been talking about. And the thing about him is the fact that his, like mine do now. I have spirit guides, and I had to go find them. So I had to go ahead and go off the. I had to go off on a path that I wasn't on before. And how I did that was I had to seek to try to figure out my mediumship,
Hmm.
and then from there who my guides were and who my spirit animals were and things like that to complete that end, so I didn't have any gray areas.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I went ahead and I did all that, and I came up with them. But that night, what he was saying to me at that table, when he said, "Who's your spirit guide?" and I says, "I don't have one." And he looked at me and he sort of smiled at me and he says, "Greg," he says, "don't worry about it, because we're going to go ahead and we're going to call on seven." And I went, "Seven?" Because there's a good seven and there's a bad seven, just like there's the white and the dark.
Hmm.
They're both contrasting. They both come together. So he said that to me, and he actually went ahead and just picked up the box and turned it on, and he started to talk, and he says, "Yeah, I need to talk to seven." And it wasn't even 2 minutes. This voice
Can you?
came back, and he started to talk to him, and he says, "I'm giving Greg here permission to use you to utilize his box and communicate with spirit." And I was just like going, "Oh my God, is this like some sort of secret code or something? Where are we going with this? Really?
Hmm.
Are we still on this side, or have we gone over on the other realm?"
Right. Right.
Okay, I need to have a divider, some sort of parameters there that are established. And after he got done doing that part, we went ahead and said we were sort of ending and said, "Yeah, okay, thank you very much." And he gave me his number and I gave him my number and said, "We'll be in touch, and thank you very much for everything you've done." And I didn't ask him to come, but there was a reason behind it. Like everything else that happens to us in the community, is that right out of the clear blue, something comes along that takes you, and either as you continue down that path, or diverts you in a little opposite direction.
Every time.
And it was that kind of thing that happened to me, that when I heard the guy's name, Tim Woolworth, it's like, oh my God. I don't know if you've ever I don't you probably been with him before. And
What with
I
Tim?
know I'm skipping all over the place now, but
No.
Tim Woolworth is amazing.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've.
I
he,
know of him.
I,
Absolutely. I've never
okay.
worked with him. I've never
I
worked
had
with
him.
him.
I had him on one night, at the end of the interview, he says, "Well," he says, "we got like about 7 minutes." He says, "Let me turn on the box and see what's going on." And I said, "Okay." And he turned on the box and he says, "Hi." He says, "This is Tim. Who's this?" And a voice came through, and he says, "You want to do me a favor?" And it pretty much answered, like, what? And he says, "Can you say hello to my friend Greg?" and I just right across, like between you and me right now, and went ahead and said, "Hi, Greg."
Mm. Validation.
And I just sort of went, "Yikes!" I didn't even know where I was for the rest of the night. I was way up there somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that carries us all, that helps us as far as where we're going on our path, whether other people understand where we're at or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's our path. And it's something
Absolutely.
that, when we mentioned before about speculation, or people that want to be skeptic about a certain area, well, so
Mm-hmm.
be it. That's their business.
That's their business. Yes.
We still have to go ahead and follow our path.
We must.
And that's why you're so important for being here, because you're that person that sort of puts a big validation on a lot of things that are happening in the community today that aren't being addressed in that manner.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what
Thank
I
you.
mean? It's sort of being, it's you're there and you should be up there, but they're sort of blacktopping over it,
Yeah.
which isn't. I'm not saying they're doing it deliberately. I'm just saying that's the
That's
way the community
happening.
seems to be going
Yeah.
this way.
It's just
You
happening
know,
that way.
and
There's
we go ahead.
there's a lot with this community. Don't give up hope with it, folks. I mean, it changes like the wind. This community does. I've seen it time and time again. Enjoy the ride, but you need to watch yourself, watch others around you, and just keep to yourself like that, and you'll be just fine. Don't get caught up in trends, fads, followers, film crews, things of that nature. If you are serious about communicating, especially with the dead, then follow that path. If you're interested in photography, try that path. If try them all until you find the one that suits you the best and what makes you the happiest, the one that gives you the most joy, and it will, and continue the legwork. That's the most important part. I mean, you can't get to the gold unless you dig. You have to dig first, and digging is, to me, that's the fun. That's the enjoyment, because it's there. You just don't know where. You don't know when, but it's there. So you just keep digging, keep chipping away, and before you know it, you capture these voices that really make no sense. There's several I have on the website, evpexplorations.com. You can listen to them. There's one there. The first one is of an old lady. This was captured at a place, an old bridge, an old train bridge that used to spin the train in Vincennes, Indiana, on a stationary recording session. I let it record for 5 minutes on a cassette recorder, and I capture a little old lady saying hello out in the middle of nowhere. How's that possible? Why would they come and visit that bridge that's normally, I mean, sure, it used to pick up passengers and things there. It could be something residual, maybe, because I didn't say anything to initiate the hello. I just simply hit record and stepped out of the area and captured it. And there's others. You'll get different conversations. I've captured one that, if you listen to it on the website, guys, and you can figure out what it's saying, please, by all means, let me know, because I've been trying for years. And it was captured at the Sally House of two, they sound like females, and I can hear the name, what sounds like Jill. Come here, Jill, something of that state. And then there's two different spirits talking. Now, was that residual or was that intelligent? Well, I've been looking through this, and it was the sound of it, when you listen to it, there was no reductions. I don't do noise reductions or anything like that, because it takes away from the background. But when you listen to that file, it sounds um, tinny, almost as if it's a struggle on them speaking or us capturing it. It sounds and it makes a spin, almost as if it's something coming into this realm, and it makes that noise. I've captured those kinds of spirit noises as well, phantom furniture, things of that nature, as they used to call it. So it's not that you're going to catch a voice every time, but pay attention to the noises you hear, everything you hear. Pay attention to the distance. You can hear dogs in the distance, animals, coyotes in the distance. Pay attention, be aware of your surroundings. That way you can note these things on the recording. You don't, and you eliminate the false positives later. But find your place. Just like you said, Greg, that's the most important thing, is to stay on that path. There's going to be things and places and things that are going to steer you away and try and guide you off that path. You may wobble for a bit, but try and get back on that path, because the reward is at the end. The ultimate reward, I feel, is yet to come. And that's when we cross. And I think at that point, from everything that I've gathered over the years, it seems to be a pretty happy place. It seems to be a pretty decent place. Yes, I feel there's spirits trapped here as well, but I don't feel they know they're trapped here. I just feel that's residue, goo, left over. A true spirit, I believe, chooses to come back and forth. They choose to come into this realm, to where a ghost is more of a record repeating itself over and over. It's just, it's imprinted in time. It's imprinted on whatever's around us. And every once in a while it seeps out, and you see an apparition walk across the room. You see, or you hear certain things as well. I think sound is residual too, and it seeps out. Things like limestone and places that have limestone foundations, those are known for activity. They're known hotspots. So just be aware of your surroundings when you're recording, especially when you're out there doing your thing, staying on your path. Keep your nose to the grindstone. Do that legwork, dig, and you will find that gold. You just have to hang in there. Motivate yourself, and get with a good team that also helps motivate you. You motivate each other, because each other, that's all we have. 9 people out of 10 don't believe a thing we say, Greg. It's getting better. It's getting more common, but yet people still think a lot of it's crap.
For everything,
and they're going to.
For everything you've been doing, though, could you put a percentage on the comparison between residual and intelligent?
I would say intelligence, I've captured far more intelligent spirits than I have residual on recording. Now, I've seen 2 apparitions in my time, just 2. One was intelligent, the other was residual. One, the first, was on the Queen Mary. I was about ready to speak on electronic voice phenomenon at the Ghost Fest that year. I'm laying in my room watching the Colts game, catching a little football before I go. Lo and behold, I'm laying there, and I have my hands like this on the bed, and I see this. It looked like a bellboy. It had the round hat zip across the room and just disappear. Now, what I remember the most, other than being in shock from seeing that residual activity, was the way the room felt during that activity. It was chilly. It dropped. It got cold. I'll never forget it. Because in my body, the hair was on end, static electricity, all of this happened. And it took me a while to collect myself after that and kind of regroup. And, to see something like that, you question your sanity. You question, maybe I ate something funny, or maybe I drank too much, whatever, whatever it may be. But when you have that encounter, whether it be residual or intelligent, which I think 80% is intelligent, I think that with those sightings, it only validates and proves to you, because a lot of these experiences, folks, are personal. They're meant for you and you alone, or that person and that person alone. For example, there was the Pantheon Theater in Vincennes, Indiana, and I used to do haunted tours out of there years ago with the old investigation team. There was a man that came in for the tour. This guy was more skeptic than I had ever imagined. He didn't believe in believing, nothing. And parents probably told him about Santa too early, I think, maybe. Something like that. But he was in there, and we were downstairs in the basement in the dressing room area. And he was backed into a dressing room, and I'm telling them about the history of the location down there, the stars that went in those dressing rooms and so forth, Red Skelton and all that good stuff. And all of a sudden, this man comes flying out of the room. I mean, white as a sheet, this guy. Sweat just pouring down. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Are you okay? Yeah, I got to get outside. So I take him outside, and he says, something touched me down there. I said, you were standing next? No, he said. That was an old, cold, dead hand. I'll never forget those words. An old, cold, dead hand that grabbed this man's shoulder and brought him to his knees, and he went flying. That was a personal experience, a target, if you will. And I think that the spirits do target skeptics. They poke at them. I think they poked at me over the years. Now that I'm thinking about it, they'll get your attention, whether you want it or not. They'll find a way to get your attention.
Oh.
And when they have it, that's when it gets interesting. That's when it gets interesting.
How about the American natives, the native? How about them? Do you think they play an important part in as far as our communication is concerned?
I think
Native Americans, excuse me.
Native Americans, they had it going on. They knew, they were in tune, they were in touch, and they still are very much in touch with their spiritual selves, with spirit, period. I think their burial grounds, even though some of our structures are built on top of them, and yes, that's going to create a haunting, their grounds are so out of reach, I guess is what I'm it is believed that their grounds, they're haunted, their grounds are haunted, of course, but it's not by ghost walking the earth. It's more of what I feel and what a lot of others feel are protective beings, shadow beings that protect their grounds, and they patrol them. There was an instance, and that just dawned a memory, where I was at a local cemetery. It was during an anniversary haunting, and it was it's a weird area because this cemetery is close to a burial ground, very close to a mound. Now I was leaning on the fence that night, just with my video camera, just filming, going across, looking for activity and so forth. And out of the corner of my eye, I see like a movement to my left, But then the fence starts to shake. It's going ching, ching, like just like that. I'll never forget the sound. I'm like, okay, is it an animal, a dog running up against it? What's going on? And out of the corner of my eye, it gets closer and larger and larger and larger and larger to where it was taller than a human would be, any kind of human being. I mean, it was probably close to 7 feet. It's not your average Joe's not going to be that tall, but it was darker than dark. It was blacker than black. This thing, and Snyder saw it too eventually. But I feel that was a shadow being, a guardian, if you will, from that native burial ground, either patrolling that area or maybe it's close by. Maybe some of that cemetery was on their ground. I don't know. But seeing something like that, it wakes you up and it scares the hell out of you too. It leads because it's so stereotyped, Greg. You know, people think, oh my goodness, it's a shadow ghost, it's a demon. Not always. No. Think about it. If you have a room completely filled with blackness, the blackness would be the least amount of energy needed to manifest. So the spirit manifests itself, and that's its form because it's using the least amount of energy possible, perhaps, which is darkness. And that's why it becomes darker than dark. That's why you're able to see it, I think, because it has manipulated that darkness to form itself and show itself. Not to scare you. It could be just an average Joe, and that's just the only way he can manifest is through a shadow, perhaps. To where a full-bodied apparition, that's rare. That's rare. That's extremely rare to capture or see one of those. So you just use your judgment. Use your judgment. Don't be too quick to judge. Do your homework.
Bachelor's Grove on the south side of Chicago is another place that has that same figure.
Yeah.
That has been, I have seen it twice now.
It's incredible. Yeah. They are incredible. And you know, they don't really bother. This thing eventually, when it vanished, you know, it wasn't one of those things that comes up and starts swatting at you. It's not going to do anything like that. It does dissipate.
We were there, or I wasn't there. I was watching. I had already come home, and after the end of the Paracon, there's two ladies from down in Florida that we know, and I can't think of their names right now, but they were friends of George Lopez's.
Mm-hmm.
You know who George is?
Mm-hmm.
Another medium, and he's from down in Florida, and he has a show up on the East Coast, and they asked him to come into this. What we were doing is basically a circle. Everybody went around in a circle. They had like 7 or 8 people, and he told them to hold hands and close their eyes and think about whatever spirit they can see in their mind and where it would be located at. And then drop your hands. And they drop their hands. And he says, now take your right hand and point in the direction that this spirit happens to be. Now they're in a circle.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden they all go like this, and every one of those arms all pointed in that corner where I had seen that.
Wow.
A couple times. And it was broad daylight, and you know, it was like crazy. But you know, that's the kind of thing that helps carry people.
Yes.
Through periods of skepticism, or you know, where they're doubters. They start to go ahead and say, well, maybe this maybe this isn't for me or that kind of thing. But this Jim said, I have a doll that made lights flash and move and kick a ball off the table on night vision camera. This doll can say my full name and know what I do. When I when I leave voice box on and walk away, it talks to the other two dolls next to it.
Ooh,
That's some pretty heavy stuff there.
that's pretty heavy, Jim. The thing with, first of all, dolls scare the hell out of me. I don't know why. Haunted dolls are creepy to me. But objects, I am a firm believer in haunted objects. Holy cow. And communication with them, yes, I think that's entirely possible. Absolutely. Oh, Steve.
Steve White. Good evening, Todd Bates. One of these days, we're going to have to talk about directional microphones that are built into handheld recorders, because many people have wondered why there's only one recorder that picks up a possible EVP and the other one doesn't. When two handheld recorders are in use, one of the explanations is because of directional mics. I have a Tascam that has the mics that
Yeah,
swivel on the
Omni.
top of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing with microphones, don't let them fool you. Don't let them fool you. Microphones are amplification tools, of course. They're fantastic. But I don't think that that's how the spirit gets on there all the time. Sure, we hear some of those sounds because the microphone amplifies it. But I think the pure magnetics of the tape also attract and help them somehow with static electricity or magnetism. Somehow their voices are sticking to that tape, and that's what has me stuck. That's what has me stuck all these years. Now, as far as digital recorders, those are sample rates and so forth. That's how those. It's digital, so it's going to sound digital. It's going to sound completely different than a magnetic tape. A magnetic tape is going to have that beautiful, wonderful hiss in the background that I have grown to love and enjoy and appreciate, and most of all, respect the hell out of.
And
That
that's
hiss.
probably because you've got 5 or 6 of those and nobody else does.
Yeah, I've got that big boy right there. But there's, with it, they capture so differently. And I've tried 2 cassette recorders next to each other as well. This has been going on for a long time, multiple devices. Why do they come to one and not the other? Personally, I feel it's because they don't broadcast their voice like you and I are doing right now. We're talking into a microphone intentionally because we know that's how the only way people can hear us. I think there's other ways they get on there. They manipulate certain things and they get in there. And I think maybe they only have enough energy to imprint themselves onto one device, not both. Because I don't think it's put out there like our voices are. Because if you look at their voice patterns on a spectral view, an Audition or Audacity, even Audition's got a better spectral view, but either or, you can actually see the difference between a human vocal and a spirit vocal. A human vocal, it has these fossils from the vibration of our vocal cords. So it's going to look like a little fossil going up. Where a spirit vocal print is a blotch. It can be like that hello EVP I captured. That's very loud EVP. Yet on Audition spectral view, there's no fossils anywhere in that voice. Anywhere. It is simply white. Wow. To where a human vocal will have ridges. And that is something I have critiqued on myself the years of processing these analog and digital recordings raw into a computer, into Audition, you can literally see the EVP. You don't have to hear them all the time. You can see them once you've done this long enough. You can see the things in there. You know when to stop. So less is more. If you bring 6 recorders, you cover 3 with a Faraday cage pouch, perhaps, or something of that nature. You have the other 2 over here. They're kind of away from each other. Then you have the other set over here. And what you're going to find is only one of them is going to capture it. Just one. Don't know why. I have no clue other than what I just said. But that is the frustration of the whole thing, is you want it here and here and here at the same time, because that's going to help us better understand. But Spirit wants it here, so we don't. I mean, that's the only way I could see it, Greg.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a good way to put it. And you know, before we close, I want to mention just the word Spiritcom. Do you remember that? Do you have any light into the end of that, as far as, you know, what they were producing, and that one guy, or you know the story?
Well, bits and pieces of it. Bits and pieces.
There was one gentleman that was part of the project, a doctor that died just after they completed it.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually came back and spoke. And they had
I didn't hear this.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And at least that's what I had been told about all that. But that was that original one that had it had a almost like a television.
Okay.
And it had the voices.
Now, television sets, and Sarah tried. Oh, she tried to get me to do this so much, Greg. She told me to watch the static. She said amazing things happen in the static, and of course, my first thought as a skeptic was, yeah, pareidolia happens in the static, Sarah.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? The woman knows what she's talking about. She would sit there and communicate every morning, 3 times a day. Then she would watch the static or images and see interstellar beings, communicate with interstellar beings. The aliens were coming through the TV set and communicating. They weren't coming through the recorders. They were coming through that. Explain that one. Explain how we can capture any random spirit in a cemetery, yet not one of those. So it's tricky. The whole field is tricky. The whole field is full of question marks. I mean, tons of them. But that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it enjoyable, is taking those question marks and answering them one at a time, just reaching up and grabbing it, arming yourself, getting out there, doing the legwork, doing the work, doing the research, which is the most important part, the most fun, I think. If you do it correctly, it is a good time. So if you concentrate on those kinds of things, because I think, and I've said this several times, I think we're overcomplicating it, Greg. I think we are overthinking the entire process. I think we're overthinking the entire mechanics on how it even would operate if it did operate. Something, somehow, is causing these recorders, these spirit boxes, they're communicating with us. They're trying to get in touch. and it's sporadic in what they say. And that's, folks, that's another frustrating thing, is you're going to have a delayed conversation. You could have a delayed conversation for months before you have any kind of closure, if you get any kind of closure at all, which is why I recommend going to a location more than one time before you even deem it haunted. Don't just go in there and go, it's done. Give it a minute. They may leave, who knows? So I just can't stress it enough.
When you go in, do you actually go ahead and acknowledge them?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. When I go into a any location, because I think, Greg, they could be anywhere at any time. The place doesn't have to be haunted, look haunted. You can have a brand new home, things built on ley lines. Sorry, folks, you're going to have a couple bad nights. It's going to get a little weird in there. But it's how you approach it, I guess. Don't be so naive. Don't overthink. Keep it simple. Less is more. That's the less we have to worry about. If we're bringing all this equipment, you're keep in mind, you're introducing more variables into the situation here, folks. So if you're in there and you've got a bunch of zooms and whams all over the place, flashes, lighting, beeps going on, you may get some activity, you may not. But if you go in there with less, that's less you have to worry about. You have your recorder, you have some kind of device to take notes, whether it be your phone, what have you. You throw it on airplane mode. That's fine. Don't sit there and use it during a session, for crying out loud. Use common sense. I've seen people, yeah, what's up, during a session.
It's like, hey, throw that thing out the window.
Use common sense. Common sense is key. It's going to take you everywhere in this field. Common sense will. Common sense will lead the way. And right behind it, it's knowledge. Okay. So those two collide. You've got a great experience. Period.
Yeah, that's for sure. So why don't you go ahead and sum up all the educational programs that you're offering and then we'll go ahead and close.
Sure. Thank you very much, Greg. Again, it's called EVP Explorations, evpexplorations.com. And there's plenty of free courses there. There's it's that website is geared for both beginners, someone that's never heard, doesn't even know what EVP stands for, all the way up to somebody that is seasoned out there and wants a refresher course. The courses are there. There's tons of them. There's over 20 different courses there, free of charge to take. You just have to sign up. I don't do anything with your email, folks. I don't like spammers either. I don't do anything with that. It's just, it has to be registered. It's just something that has to be done. And on there, you've got articles as well that just, they help you build that foundation to get out there. I mean, the 101 and 103 courses, they're intense. They're designed to push you that extra minute. And sure, you have the option to just flip right through there. But are you going to? Do you want to cheat yourself like that? Stay the course. Do the course. Comment on the course. Did you like the course? What didn't you like? What can we add? Your feedback is everything, folks, because that's how we make it better. And my goal is plain and simple, is to help as many people as I can, Greg, and to help them build a better foundation for their recordings and for their investigations in general. All of that's there for you. evpexplorations.com. Thank you very much, folks.
And your shows are on what time?
EVP Explorations, that airs every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Central on the Sacred Spiral Network, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, all those places. You can watch it live on the website. There at evpexplorations.com. You can watch it there live now. All kinds of fun stuff, because I do websites as a hobby as well. They calm me down. Don't ask me why. That stuff calms me down. So I enjoy building, folks. I enjoy building. So it's a lot of fun. So hopefully you guys enjoy it.
I want to say that, for all the questions that were asked in the audience, that most of them were very important questions. There is one that was mentioned by, I think his name is, it's a D with a circle around it. And it says, I look at coffee and see Greg and Todd.
Yeah.
Like he's scrying or something. Come on, buddy. Get a job, whatever you want to do.
Thank you, kind sir.
Hey, thank you very much, Todd. It's been awesome having you on. And here's to another one down the road. And
Greg, I can't wait. Anytime.
If these people get an opportunity to watch the last 2 episodes of your show, they're going to flip out.
They're going to flip out.
That's all I'm going to say. So thank you very much. It's been an honor to have you on tonight. And here, if you hang around a little bit, we'll talk for a few after we get done.
You got it, Greg. Thank you
very much, Todd.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll see everybody. You guys all have a great evening, a great weekend. Be safe and use your heads. And whatever you do, don't try looking in a coffee cup and seeing me and Todd, whatever you do. Good night, everybody. Come on. You can do it. Ha 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 ha!